Hello guys, I'm Runa from Off She Goes. I create motorcycle travel videos, and today we'll talk a little bit about why and how I use a panoramic 360 camera as part of my videos. This is a sponsored video. I know that matters to many of you. DJI recently sent me their brand new DJI Osmo 360, but they have also sent me their competitor's camera, the Insta360 X5, so that I can make as fair as possible comparison between these cameras and figure out which one I would like to continue using going forward. Before we jump into it, here's a quick montage of a few clips that I grabbed this week. I've used a 360 camera for a couple of years already. I bought the Insta360 X5 a while back, and there are a couple of reasons to why I've been considering if maybe a 360 camera doesn't have a place any longer in my setup and if I should bother continue bringing one on my trips. Number one, the image quality of this camera is just getting a little bit outdated compared to the other cameras that I use, and also the undertone of the colors is very different from my other cameras. So this means I have to spend extra time editing and trying to make the colors match. And number two, I carry 5 different cameras that I actively use to create my videos, 6 if you count my phone that I grab some shots with every now and then. And it's just a lot of stuff to keep charged, which can be a little bit of a hassle while you're traveling. But with the release of this camera, the new DJI Osmo 360, they might have solved both of these problems. And I'll explain how in just a little bit, but first let's talk a little bit about the basics. What is a 360 camera in the first place? And I have a cheat sheet for this. A 360 camera is an omnidirectional camera that captures a complete spheric view of a scene using multiple wide-angle lenses that are then stitched together to create a seamless panoramic image or video. So basically what this means is when you hit record, you don't have to worry about framing, you just film everything. This requires that you spend some extra time editing and reframe your shots before you can use them afterwards. There are apps for your phone and softwares for your laptop from both DJI and Insta, and we're not going to talk too much about that. It's pretty intuitive and easy to learn, but it's just, I figured better mention it. But why use a 360 camera in the first place? A statement you might hear from professional videographers is that the 360 camera is a lazy camera. And I suppose there's a level of truth to that, because instead of spending time framing each of your shots, you can just hit record and worry about the framing later. And in some ways, I suppose that can be a little bit unfortunate, as it doesn't necessarily require that you put any thought into your shots. There is some level of intention behind every single shot that I make through a day. My cameras are not running non-stop. I hit record whenever I see something, a view or whatever that I like, or if there's a feeling that I try to catch, a moment that I want to have in my video and that I think can be useful in telling my story. And some might argue that using a 360 camera kind of ruins this process, but I'd argue that you can use your 360 camera with just as much intention as any other camera. When I hit record on my 360, it is still because there is a specific shot, a specific view or angle that I want to have in my videos. For example, when you're riding up in the mountains and there's snow on both sides of the road, or you're coming over a hill and you get this view in front of you, I think using a 360 camera, I think that can give you an even better impression of what the surroundings look like than, for example, using the action cameras on my helmet or the one I have mounted on my motorcycle. So there's a time and place for everything. And the bonus part is that you can end up with multiple clips from the same shot. So instead of having to reposition your camera multiple times and ride the same stretch back and forth to get the shots that you want, you might already have captured it with just one shot. So is the 360 camera a lazy camera? Yeah, perhaps, but it sure as heck can also save you some time not having to frame every single shot that you make, and you can also get multiple clips from the same shots, which also saves you time. So I think that's cool. Now let's get back to my statement from the beginning of the video where I say that DJI might have solved my two biggest issues regarding if I should continue using a 360 or not. And that all has to do with DJI's ecosystem. Their products just work well together. Just like, for example, Apple, they have a lot of products that just speak together and work together very well. I've had quite a few different DJI products through the years. I've had different drones, I've had 3 generations of action cameras. And the great things about all the newer products is that all of them have the option of recording in a log format. Their log is called D-Log-M. This means that you record footage that initially looks very dull and flat and low contrast and drained of color, but you can add color post-production and they have lots like preset packages of colors that you can put on the footage for all the DJI products, and that makes the footage match very well. If you, for example, have a look at this footage from the DJI Air 3, the drone, and a couple of shots in different angles from my action cameras, you see that they just look good together. They have the same undertones, they have the same color temperature, somewhat same contrast. So when you go to change in between these shots, it will just look a lot smoother. If I were to toss in here a clip from my X3, my older 360 camera, you see that it just doesn't belong here. It has wrong colors, wrong contrast, wrong undertone. But if I change that to a clip from the Osmo 360, where I recorded in D-Log-M, you see that even though it's from a different setting, a different time of day, different sun, different light, it just matches, and that is so nice. But that's not even the best part. Like I've said, I've had 3 generations of action cameras from DJI, which also means that I have quite a bit of extra equipment from these cameras. The newer batteries have a higher capacity than the earlier ones, but they are the same size, the same fit, and I can use all of them with all my different cameras, which means that I can use this charging box to charge the batteries of 3 of my cameras in one, and that is mwah! So nice. They also have the same mounting systems, so you can use the magnetic quick release, same mounts with this camera as well. In comparison, all the different generations of the Insta cameras has different batteries, the different sizes, different shapes, so you can't use them. So if you spent extra money on batteries and gear for your previous Insta camera, chances are that you can't use it with your newer one, which, let's be honest, kind of sucks. One of the first things you probably noticed was that the Osmo 360 has more of a squared shape, and it has a horizontal screen versus the X5 that has a vertical screen. I use my camera 99% of the time for YouTube videos and not shorts or reels, so for me it makes more sense to have a horizontal preview of the footage. This shape also makes it possible to mount it on my helmet, which is pretty cool. The buttons on the Osmo are larger and more defined, enough that I can still feel them while I wear thin gloves. Both models feature the standard 1/4-inch threaded mounts on the bottom, and both have options for magnetic quick release mounts. SD cards on both of them are located next to the batteries. However, on the X5 you do have to take out the battery to access the card. It would make me a little bit worried if it's raining and you have to stop and quickly change the SD card. If you weren't able to completely dry off your hands, you risk getting your battery wet. They both support SD cards up to 1 terabyte, and the DJI Osmo 360, just like the action cameras, have internal storage, which I love. But where the Insta X5 takes a pretty big point is that they offer replaceable lenses. With the lenses of these cameras being shaped the way they are, it makes them more at risk for scratches and damages, which means you might have to replace them at some point. With the Insta, you can buy replacement lenses and take along, so if it happens while you're on a ride or a trip or travel or whatever, you can just replace them on the go. That is very unfortunately not the case with the Osmo 360. With this camera you have to send it in either for a replacement or to have it repaired. You can buy protective covers to put outside of your lenses, but whatever covers you put outside of your lens, it will in some ways affect the quality. I did try these similar covers on my X3 and I ended up removing them because they caused so much glaring and it really lowered the quality of my footage, which were annoying, so I'd rather risk having a few scratches here and there. Alright, last but definitely not least, let's have a look at some of the internal features and some actual footage. This will get a little bit technical, but we'll get through it, and then I'll show you how much of a difference these specs and feature actually makes in the footage. Right, let's get to it. The Osmo 360 has a new HDR image sensor that maintains the same 360 image field as a traditional 1-inch sensor while increasing sensor utilization by 25%, and this should result in outstanding image quality and lower power consumption. In comparison, the Insta360 X5 has a 1/1.28-inch sensor, and let me try to show you the difference between these. The Osmo 360 sensor is squared, the Insta360 X5 is rectangular. The circle areas you see here are the areas of the sensor that is actually being used. The squared sensor allows this area to be quite a bit bigger, but it also leaves less unused area of the sensor. The Osmo 360 sensor also have more and larger pixels, and it makes it the very first panoramic camera that supports native 8K panoramic footage. Okay, so basically larger and more pixels equals less noise, higher quality, better low light performance, and a higher dynamic range. Now let's see what it actually looks like in real life. Alright, first up, dynamic range. So how well the cameras are able to retain details in bright and dark areas of the same footage. If we take a look at this footage from riding on an overcast day, the immediate differences are not really huge. But if we stop, for example, here for a closer look, you can see how the sky of the footage on the right side is a little bit overexposed to the point where you see the details of the clouds a little bit less, and also the trees looks a little bit more flat and almost artificial. If we make another stop here, you can see how it takes the Insta a little bit longer to readjust after coming out of the darker area of the half tunnel, with the footage being a little bit overexposed in the sky and just in general. Now let's ride a little bit further and let both cameras adjust before we stop again and zoom in to have a look at the details and texture of my jacket, which are barely visible at all on the X5. Alright, let's make it even harder with these clips filmed directly towards the sun, so we have the very bright areas and the darker areas of the shadows. In my opinion, Osmo handles this significantly better without too much glaring and blown up highlights. You can still see quite a bit of details in the footage, it's not too bad looking. The lighter areas of the Insta footage looks very overexposed, which seems to be a problem in general with the Insta footage. And if you have a look at how the clouds almost disappear in that footage, like you can barely see them, and how branches and leaves and details of the tree are gone. Again here, filming from inside of the garage and out towards the sun. You can make up your mind yourself which one you like better. One more example where I'm filming towards my bright white house. If you zoom in and have a look at this area, you can see how the Osmo retains the details a little bit better, and the Insta footage almost have like a cartoonish look to it. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't think I like it. One more thing I noticed while I was filming in the garage was that the Insta footage somehow made it look like I have dirt on my face. Alright, I want to check out how the night modes are on both of these cameras as well. Both of the cameras are now in their night mode, Super Night for Osmo 360 and Pure Video, which it's called on the X5. It's dusk now, so it's not night dark at all. It's just dusk. Once again, let's stop and have a closer look. Notice how much sharper the lines of the wall is on the left side, and also how much brighter the red color of my jacket is. Here as well, if you look at my ear and my hair and roof in these pictures, how grainy it is on the right side compared to the left side. It's a little bit smoother. One more thing I want to mention here, because the difference became so big. In the reframing software, you can use a feature called subject tracking. This allows you to mark an area that you want to be tracked through the video, and the software reframes the footage automatically. A neat feature that usually saves you a lot of time in both of the softwares. With the same footage and framing the same area, the DJI software was able to track me through the whole video. Even inside the garage where it was a lot darker, it managed the whole clip on a first try. Now with the Insta software, I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it's because the footage looks a lot darker and more grainy than the DJI footage, but it lost track of me 12 times. So 12 times I had to go in and start the subject tracking again. Unexpected and a little bit annoying. If you look at the footage side by side, both of them are dark, but I think that the Osmo definitely retains more details, and the Insta footage, it looks almost a little bit blurry and ghosty. I don't know. Here's also a side-by-side comparison of the Insta360 X5 iLog that only goes up to 5.7K, and the DJI Osmo 360 with D-Log that goes all the way up to 8K. So I definitely think that the log versions captures the nicest footage. You can decide for yourself. I just think it gives a generally smoother and nicer looking image. Alright, one more thing before we're done. Let's have a quick listen to different audio options. Here we are. Let's also do an audio test. Both cameras are in their standard noise reduction features. This is me talking to the DJI Osmo 360, and this is me talking to the Insta360 X5. If you can hear any difference. And back to the DJI ecosystem. Also with this camera I can connect two DJI mics. So I can have one on myself and one on, for example...
Hello.
Thomas over there. You can also have your microphone inside the helmet. And just like that, we have made it to the end of this video. I still need to get to know both of these cameras and all their features better, but as of now, it's kind of a no-brainer which camera that I'm going to bring on my next trip. The Osmo 360 has higher quality footage in all the tests that I've put them through so far. It also uses the same batteries as my other action cameras, which makes charging easier. It has the option of recording in the same log format as my other cameras, which makes color matching a lot easier. And the shape of the camera itself allows me to wear it on my helmet as a potential backup camera. The only place where the X5 takes a point, and it's a pretty big point, is that you can buy replaceable lenses and carry along, versus the Osmo 360 where you have to send in the whole camera for it to be repaired or replaced. And with all of this, you would think that the Osmo would be the more expensive camera, but as of today, it's actually substantially cheaper than the X5. And I also then have to spend extra money on buying accessory, because I have accessory for my older cameras that fits this one. So you'll have to make up your mind for yourself what's important to you. If you have any questions or input, if there's anything that I haven't considered or thought about or talked about yet, then please leave a comment below and I'll try to get back to you. But yeah, thanks for watching and have fun creating.